My shin.
My shin.
My shin.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Akwabe.
Akwabe.
Welcome.
Welcome. She remembers that stuff. I don't. I had to write everything down.
This is Carrie and I'm Jane, and this is it. And we're here to tell you about a trip of our lifetime. And we're here to thank you for sending us.
Yes.
We didn't do this. This money didn't come out of our pocket, but our sisters and brothers in this congregation, the Oakland congregation, and congregations of women all over the United States. When they knew we were going, we never had to ask for a dime. They just poured it in.
Yep.
We got there with $3,000 too much, but we promised that every dime of that would go into the work there, and it did. And so we're very thankful for all you've done to make this trip possible. It is a trip of a lifetime. 6,000 miles away and land in a city of 6 million.
Yeah.
Kojo says Google will tell you 3 million, but it's 6 million. Anyway, we want to present our little report on the work we did there, and we hope it'll open your eyes to see where we've been. But more than that, hope it'll open eyes to see what we have ahead to do and what we can do working together.
Meet our chauffeur and her assistant. We got there to Little Rock safely on time. However, the first flight got delayed, and we ended up spending the night in Little Rock and didn't leave until Tuesday morning for Chicago. The trip was absolutely incredible, and there's no way in this short span of time that we can explain everything. So I've tried to, and Mama's tried to focus on just the highlights. And if you ever go on a trip like this, make sure you have the right partner. Because you are going to be together 24/7. You're going to experience all kinds of different emotions, feelings, thoughts. And there was one night we woke up at 2 o'clock in the morning and stayed up for a couple of hours just talking about everything we did. You also need to be on the same wavelength and have the same passion for the work. Norfolk or Bull Shoals, I don't know which one it is. If David was ever going to write another psalm after seeing the clouds, this would be the one. This is the last place that we saw in the United States. This is Chicago, the planetarium and some other museum. Okay, so here's our travels. From the U.S., we flew to Brussels, and from Brussels, we flew down to Accra. We traveled from Little Rock to Chicago early Tuesday morning, and we spent the entire day in the Chicago airport because there's only one flight that goes to Brussels, and it's in the evening time. We spent a couple hours in Brussels and then another 7 hours to Accra. Ghana is 7 hours ahead of us, in case you ever need to know that. This is where we were in Ghana. We flew into Accra, down there at the bottom. And during our time that we were there, we traveled from Accra over here to Swedru and down in this area, and then back up to Nswam, and then over here to Aburi, and then back down to Accra. So it looks like a small space that we were in, and yeah, it was, but we did a lot of driving. The country of Ghana is made up into regions. They're kind of like our states. Oh yeah, we got there safely, obviously. This is the first sight of Accra. When we got out of the airport, they couldn't come in to greet us. We got out of the airport, were two white women standing in a sea of black faces. Obviously, we knew who we were, and we were like, "Where's Kojo? Where's Kojo?" And then finally, he and his friend Alex scooped us up and got us. And so that was from the airport before we were leaving in his car.
I think you need this.
Oh, okay.
Get close.
Get close. Oh my. I know Kojo has mentioned in the past that the U.S. built a highway in Ghana, and it is called the George Walker Bush Highway. It's a 6-lane highway that's about 8.7 miles long, and it is the best road in Ghana. You're going to learn more about that later. Okay, so Tuesday night we got to Kojo's. Wednesday we got to Kojo's, and because it was so late when we got there, we couldn't go to meet the ladies at their class. We got up Thursday morning at Kojo's house, and obviously this is his garden. Daylight hours are different in Ghana. Sun comes up at 6, it goes down at 6. So your days are a whole lot different. We wanted to spend a lot more time in Swedru, but we weren't able to because of the delay. And so we only got about 30 minutes to look at Kojo's garden, and it is amazing. All of the seeds that you all have sent over with him, one way or another, are growing in this garden. And this is the well that the ladies collected money for to build, and the top just went on it shortly before we got here. Those are plantains. Yes, they do taste like bananas. And I'm not sure what these are or what those are. I'm sure y'all could probably tell me. I'm just not a plant person. This is Pipe Tank. This is the neighborhood that Kojo lives in. All the buildings in Ghana are built from bricks. And you'll see piles of bricks like that everywhere. This is leaving the neighborhood, in Kojo's neighborhood. We had a long drive and we got to the children's school, the Church of Christ International School. This is a neighborhood, and these are neighborhood children here. Every school has a gate, and most of them have security. Well, when we got there, they were digging a septic. They didn't have one yet. This building has 12 classrooms. It's 3 stories tall. It has a very narrow and uneven stairway at the far end. And it even has several bathrooms and a shower on the top floor. This was the old building, the old school building, and it still has classrooms in it. These children here are actually village children. That's one of the teachers there. And we're going to talk more about this building later. That little room over on the side is actually like the administrator's building, or office, and it's like 12 by 12. It's so small. These are some of the teachers that were there, and you can see some of the children in the back. Okay, I know these pictures are blurry. They were taken with a camera by one of them in there, and we were having issues with that camera anyway, but we just wanted to show you how excited they were to see us. And obviously I'm holding a little one back there. And there are some of the teachers. Now this will show you. I know it's kind of blurry, but you can see they're both smiling, and he's so excited to see her. And these guys were excited too. It was a great time. Every classroom in the building is named for someone who helped to sponsor it or helped raise money for it. And this woman, Stella Jester, is from the Oak Street Church of Christ in, tell me where again? I can't remember. Eldon, Missouri. And there's ours, the Mountain Home Ladies Hall. We have our own classroom there. Okay, so while we were there, Kojo and some of the teachers and students said you need to come upstairs, but Mama couldn't make that trek up the stairs. I didn't know what was going on. So he's standing here talking about how much all the women in the United States have helped with this, men and women in the United States have helped with this school building. Uh-oh. And obviously by this time I'm crying. I have no idea what's behind this door. The Jane and Carrie Hall. What a blessing this was. And if you could see close up, I'm just bawling here. And I really wish Mama could have been up there. This young lady will be actually a student in this room. And these are some of the teachers. They love to take pictures. So everywhere you go, they're like, me, 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 me. So I have like 100 pictures of these students and teachers. This is actually behind that main school building. They don't really have like neighborhoods, like streets and roads and stuff in Ghana. They just kind of build wherever. So there's several little houses just nestled in back there. This was on our travels from the school to Gamoa Fatah, which is where the Village of Hope is located, and that's where we were going to spend our weekend. They were having a Christian Women's Fellowship. That's where we got our dresses. And this is a typical road between the villages, and we'll talk more about roads later. So Friday morning, we arrive at the Village of Hope, and it says college, but it's not really a college. It's a college in their culture. In our culture, it's a high school. All the high schools in Ghana are boarding schools. So this is coming into the compound. These are classrooms and more classrooms. This was, I believe, the men's dorm and the administrator's dorm and the women's dorm. And then this was the main building that we met in for the time that we were meeting there. Where we were, Gamoa Fatah is right on the coast, but where we were, we really didn't get a good view of it. You can see a little bit of it in the back there. Oh, there's some more. And there you can see the waves crashing in. So, but we didn't, that was as close as we got to the ocean while we were there. And you know, I just thought of this. You know, like if you go, I don't know, when we went down to Orange Beach, you could actually smell the ocean. I don't remember ever being able to smell it. We smelled a lot of things, but not ocean water. Yep, this is a typical scene. They live outside. The weather's beautiful, so they're outside all the time. They live outside. This was the place that we stayed while we were there for that weekend. This was Sunday morning. I ran up the balcony and took that picture of the ocean. This was our room. It's very small, as you can see, but it was comfortable. It had everything we needed. Yes, there was a full bathroom. This was where we slept, where we cooked our meals. It was our dinner table, our chair, our dishwasher. We made our coffee there. We studied, and when we got it dirty, we vacuumed it. So obviously we did everything on the bed. This was the only light in the room. Friday, one of us spoke every day except for Sunday while we were there. This was the stage area at the fellowship. And the things I noticed about the women in Ghana and the way they did things, they always made everything look nice. They used their best of everything. They always wore their best. They were clean. They never wore pants. And there was nothing that looked worn out or dirty. And they were always prepared and ready to glorify their God, whatever they did. And this is a scene of the women. I think most of them are part of the main committee. They were sitting up there on Saturday morning while they were doing some events or something. And I don't know if you can see it, and you'll see it in probably some of Jane's pictures, but a lot of women had dresses on with the same type of fabric. Not necessarily this fabric, but matching fabric. So, we're in a foreign country. We don't speak their language. Most of them can speak some English, so we had to have an interpreter for everything. The language is called Chi. I think that's how it's pronounced. I'm not positive about that. So Teresa was our interpreter on Friday night to help us understand the things that were going on. Charlotte on the left, she was our interpreter on Saturday night. Ifwa on the right was our interpreter on Saturday during the day. And then Sunday, they gave us each our own interpreter to understand what was going on during worship. Of course, for our lessons, we also needed interpreters. And I just love this picture of Ifwa and Jane. So sweet. This is Daniel. He was leading our worship on Sunday morning. Or Emmanuel, I'm sorry. I don't know if you can see it, but this man has true joy in his heart. He is singing praises to God and leading songs, and it just felt so wonderful to be there and see the joy that these people share. On Sunday morning, the fellowship executives gave us these dresses. Let's see if I went too far. No. Yeah, as you can see, we're wearing them, and we're sitting here with Ifwa. They are made from the standard fabric for all the dresses that are going to be made for the yearly Central Region Fellowship. So they have this fellowship every single year. And then this will be the fabric that they will use from now on when they make their dresses every year. So I want to go back to Ifwa. I want to tell you a little bit about her. Sunday morning, early before worship, we found out from another sister that Ifwa was desiring to go to university. That is the university college. She is very intelligent and wanted to be a professor with her majors in French and English. However, her family is very poor, and that was the perfect opportunity for us. And this is something that I have been desiring to do, is to help someone go to college or university. $1,000 a year will send this young girl to university. And so there are other expenses, of course, but relatively speaking, if you compare that to US, that is not very much money in American money. So I have a dream to start a program to help sponsor young women to go to university in Ghana. This woman is brilliant. They had on Saturday night, they had a special event where they go and answer questions about the Bible, and she answered most of the questions. Out of 6, there were 6 or 8 other girls. Okay, I need to go on because otherwise we're going to run. Fast food in Ghana.
You don't want it.
You don't want it. Oh, yeah, we didn't eat any of the food there. Well, I should rephrase that. I ate some of the food there. Mama didn't eat any of the food there. Okay, driving again, we leave Village of Hope and we're headed to Enswam. And this is Elephant Street and Love Avenue in Enswam. I just had to take that picture. This was our bed in Enswam, our hotel room. Same thing. We did everything there. Okay, here's the roads. I don't know if you can see this or not. Oh, these are piles of dirt on the side of the road for them to fill in potholes as needed. This is a typical scene. You're driving 15 miles an hour going like this through the roads because they're so bad between the villages. What it looks like is at some point they were paved and it's just time has gone on, they've eroded. Yeah, we're driving on the wrong side of the road, so think about how bad it was on the other side of the road. That's like a ditch. Yeah. These 2 women had a cocoa plantation on their property, and so they let us come and take a look at their cocoa nuts. Not coconuts, cocoa. You can buy anything on the side of the road in Ghana. This gentleman was preparing coconuts for people. When we left Enswam to go up to Aburi, everywhere we went, we had to have a driver and either a rented vehicle or a borrowed vehicle. We left Enswam on Monday morning to go to Pakro. It was when we went to Pakro. Yep, and we didn't have enough room in the seat with us, and so Kojo sat in the back. And actually, in the beginning, Kojo and Davies sat on each other's laps in the front seat. That didn't work out very well. So Davies sat in the back on the way back. This is on our trip up to Aburi. It's up in the mountains. Thank you. It's very beautiful up there. Obviously, it was foggy that day. After we were up in Aburi and we spoke, then they took us to the botanical garden, and I just took a few pictures of that. This was little Jane, Davy's daughter, wanted me to take pictures of that. She thought that was cool. There's some very interesting trees here. Okay. Like I said earlier, the college is the high school, and a lot of them are sponsored by different denominations. Let's see. This is the college that Davy's daughter, Blessings, wants to go to. It's massive. And we were like on another mountain across a ravine, and I had to really zoom in to take that picture. Every village has a king, and this is the king's palace in Aburi. Ghana is a very beautiful country. This is a pineapple and potato plantation. There's pineapple. The last day that we were there, Kojo had actually gotten a couple of pineapples and he let me taste some, and it does taste better than the pineapple you get here. Just beautiful country. Okay, Mama wanted you to know that that when we saw these cows on the side of the road, or they were actually in the road, that at one point there was a motorcycle that just drove right through them because he had to get through them. This was amazing. We were so close to these cows, just going down the road. And now we have a car coming toward us. They don't have normal traffic rules. So you just kind of get out of the way. Okay. These are young boys. I'd probably say 8, 9 maybe. They are making palm oil from the palm tree. The African palm tree is the most used and most efficient plant in Ghana. Everything about the tree can be used. Palm nut oil is used for soaps, cosmetics, candies, biofuel, lubricants. The leaves are used for brooms and roofing and weaving, and the shell of the nut or the chaff is used for firewood, and the stems are used for firewood. It's important to note that the Ghanaian people are very industrious. We never saw anybody just sitting around. If they were sitting, they were doing something. The palm tree is obviously an example of that. I'm going to take a few minutes to show you these women in action. These are okra. These are peanuts. Every time we saw peanuts on somebody carrying on somebody's head, they were stacked exactly like that. Yeah, firewood. This woman, we had stopped in Inswam. Kojo needed to pick up some medical supplies for someone, and these are eggs. These are boiled eggs, and she had them stacked up, and when she went to stand up the first time, she actually dropped one, so she had to squat back down again, pick it up, put it back on her tray, and then move on. Apples. I don't remember what that is. These are sunglasses. Yeah, a whole huge tray of sunglasses. This is near Accra. I wish I had gotten more pictures of the street sellers, but the closer you get to Accra, the more of them there are. And this is tiger nuts, and we actually got to bring some of these home. Hats? Anyone need a hat? These are like Mentos and Trident. I don't remember what that is. Some sort of snack. Fabric, bread, stereos. Anybody need a boombox? You can buy it in Ghana, right on the side of the road. You can even buy caskets on the side of the road. Kojo explained that many of the street sellers are homeless. And what people do, rich people do, is they go buy a lot of things, whatever, and they hire them to sell them. Our last day that we were there, we saw a man sitting on a skateboard and another man pushing him along in between the cars. And that was also the day that this very elderly woman came up to the van that we were in and pressed her face on the glass and was just like pleading, and it was so heartbreaking. Furniture. These are yams. They're probably about this big, probably something like that. They're huge, huge yams. More furniture. More furniture. Cemeteries. They don't have like just a cemetery, designated somewhere. Apparently, it doesn't appear to be that way. There were several cemeteries that we just passed by. There'd be like, I don't know, a dozen burial sites. This is the taxi corner in Inswam. Most people do not own their own cars, so that's how they get around, is they rent taxis. Need to go back over here. Everywhere you go in Ghana, they have these little shacks set up like this. And that's what they do. They sell their wares. They go into the bigger cities, into the bigger stores, and they buy things, and they bring them to the villages so the people in the villages have access to things, whatever they need. This is actually in Accra. Those pictures were, but that's in Swam. On Wednesday, when we were leaving Swam to go to Accra, Kojo wanted us to go drive by the prison. So we went by the prison. Here's the gate to go into prison compound. You're not supposed to take pictures of any of the government facilities nor the prison. This is the prison wall. That's the best I got. They actually have housing in the prison compound for families, because if the husband goes away, the rest of the family doesn't have any way to take care of themselves, so they live here. And that's a vendor that they have set up there. They had several vendors. This was the women's prison. The Southern Institute of Bible Studies, we actually were driving in his car. I think that was on Wednesday when we went past there. The director there let us borrow his car. This is, I guess I didn't get this. The Liberians, refugees, came to Ghana many, many years ago, and they have a whole area right before you get to Accra where they sell all their wares, and they live in this area. Yes, they have KFC. And this is called Carrie House, and it's spelled Kari, Kari. I don't know what it means, but I had to take a picture of that. And this is, yes, a Burger King. So on Wednesday, when we got to Accra, I'll go back a little. Kojo took our driver, Sammy, and I to a Chinese restaurant for lunch. Yes, I got Chinese in Ghana. So that Wednesday night, then we went to Teshi. And it took us a long time to get to Teshi because it was on Wednesday during rush hour, and traffic was really bad. So this is Gifty Ann, Gifty, Gifty Ann. She was my interpreter on Wednesday night. She was the best interpreter next to the interpreter that Jane had on Monday at Pacro. Compared to Lydia, she was really well. And here's a little bit about Gifty. She is a member of the church since she was 9. She's a practicing midwife in a local government hospital in Teshi. She loves to sing, write fiction, read novels, and her best sports are volleyball and soccer. And she says, I look forward to helping young girls to first stay in school and live morally upright lives and be models in their society. She says she is much grateful for the opportunity to interpret for you and your mom. It was such a pleasant moment for me. As for her future plans, she would like to study in her field of work, but not here in any part of the world where she could receive the best education and be able to help the health of pregnant women and women as a whole. She's very ambitious. She's a very sweet girl. We are now back at Accra. We're exhausted, but we don't care. It was this was a very sad time. We were really sad to leave here. And this was Teresa. She was our first interpreter when we were at the Village of Hope. And she actually worked at the airport in Accra, and she made it a point to come say goodbye to us. And believe it or not, I did it in 30 minutes.
Well, we're starting off with mine with the same one with Lina and Louise putting us on the road. We had 4 50-pound bags to carry with us. That's what we were allowed. One of them was full of food. One. 50 pounds of jerky and peanut butter crackers is a lot of food. Landed 6,000 miles away with a man that has been praying for 10 years for me to come to Ghana. He was a happy camper that day. Looks like a piece of cake, don't it? That is your living nightmare right there. A certain daughter of mine who went with me and a certain son named Kojo put the old lady in the back end. Not only were there holes in the muffler, diesel coming up in that. We were on that potholy road she told you about. We call it Swedru Boulevard. That thing, when they hit a pothole, you'd go halfway to the ceiling. I had bruises all up my back. I had bruises where my knees beat together. When I finally got out of there, 3 hours later, I told Carrie, I will never go back there again. You go. But we got where we was going. That's typical. What you had to ride in most of the time was a worn-out old Toyota shooting blue smoke. And there was fumes inside, too. This is the first school for the children where Kojo is, as we said. And this, every building over there is built with rebar so that they can put the rest of it together. This is the new Oakland academic building in progress right now, replacing that. So you ladies at Oakland that have worked so hard, there's the fruition. It's going up. We got to see the septic tank when we were there. Now you're getting to see that it's coming along. These are the children at the school. They were presenting us with their national anthem here, and then with their school anthem, and then with their platform for their Christian living, which is the Holy Word of God she's holding up. And this is Ebenezer calling the kids to order. They're very orderly. They're well-behaved, well-mannered. These little girls were doing a little dance that they do at the school for Carrie and I. This is Esther.
Ninsen.
Huh?
Ninsen.
I don't need that last name. Did I get her right?
Yes, Esther.
She read us their appeal for things they need to do for the school, and the government had just come in and told them they couldn't progress any further in their education or in their credits or anything else until they took the children on a field trip. Well, to take 50 children on a field trip from there and to hire the means to get them where they need to go costs $500. Someone has already anonymously taken care of that $500, and they've got it covered again for this year. So they're getting to keep up with what the government's requiring. Not all of the children were there that day. School was out, but they assembled a few of them so that Carrie and I could see the kids and touch the kids and talk to the kids. And believe me, the kids want to be touched. We were in seats of honor here, and as you can see, one of them's already found her way in Carrie's lap. Everywhere we went, the little children just came to us. It was a blessing. They wanted us to say something to the children. I told them, no, I want to sing to them. So we were teaching them if you're happy and you know it, but they couldn't get the smile thing right. They were just very solemn. And so Carrie and I showed them how to do that. I think Carrie's already shown you this college at the Village of Hope. Let me say this about the Village of Hope. It's a huge compound. It is owned and operated by the Churches of Christ in the United States. Most of those churches are in Texas. Do not confuse it with the Village of Hope set up by Oprah Winfrey a few years ago that went to scandal almost immediately after it took off. This one is owned and operated by the church.
That's the orphanage.
That's the orphanage there. They have on this compound a hospital, very small, very primitive. I don't want to go. But they have a college. They have
Medical.
library. Medical. They have a library. Then they have these other big buildings for various meetings and dorms and what have you. I was getting ready for my first speaking appointment in Ghana. And when I say speaking, you speak. Will you quit? When you say speak, you're going to speak for an hour. And then you're going to work through an interpreter, so you can add almost another hour. And then you have an hour of questions. And so when Carrie says you can go to the next one. I was first, Carrie was next. When you take that kind of time, when you take 3 hours to get to a building, many times it took us that far. Mm-hmm. And then you stretch out your speaking thing here 3 hours, and there's 2 of you. Then you got to go back home. You're talking about long, long days. And most always in one of those worn-out Toyotas, a few times not. But they will jar your teeth out and bump you up, and none of them have shocks. And they have potholes to drive through. This was a monkey. I never did know her name. But on Saturday night, we were gathering for a large singing. And she's outside the door doing this to me. Well, I can't speak her language and she can't speak mine, but down south they'd say she was wanting to boogie. And I'm trying to be a good girl here, but finally I gave in and I went out there. The sidewalk was actually smoother than the floor in the building because they just poured that concrete in that big, huge building and just sloshed it around. So it's nothing in there that you can call smooth. So finally I found somebody speaking English, and I stopped them and I said, tell her that Granny's got to quit because she's going to break something she's going to need this week. So I got out of the, but after that, she was my best friend. Everywhere I saw her, she was around my neck. This is the second place we stayed. This is Brother Alex. He is probably Kojo's best friend. He is such a kind, compassionate Christian man. He picked us up at the airport, and he drove us up to Inswam?
He drove us to Swedru,
To
Kojo's house. And
Yeah.
then when we left here, then he took us to Enswam
Yes,
from
he
the
did
Village of
eventually.
Hope. Yeah.
So he chauffeured us around a good bit. He had his own vehicle. It did pretty good. It looked pretty good. The only trouble was when it went uphill, it would gear out. And you'd have to roll back down, start her again, and then we'd go over. But we got where we were going. These are these dresses you see us wearing today. They were honor gifts presented to us by the ladies in honor for being there with them. This is some of the ladies that did that. They had us up there and had them on us over our clothes before we knew what they were doing. It kind of scared me at first. When we got outside, Carrie said, get me out of here, get me out of here. I had to help her get hers off. This is a gathering of some of the greatest women in the world. These are all Christian women. And when they come together to worship and to sing. And you have never heard such singing in your life. I'm serious. Kojo told me, said, Mama, you will hear the sweetest singing this side of heaven. In the back, against the walls back there were 500 women in this gathering, and there were 251 children. We could have used Gracie Lance there because those children were just there for the duration. More of the same. And here are some of the children from the orphanage. And they were with you everywhere you went. These are from the orphanage. They're finally, the one is a little solemn there, but they're trying to crack. And this is Miss Sassy here. She wanted to boogie and be in your lap and everything else. These children from the orphanage were being entertained by Carrie. She was showing them her grandson on the phone, and they thought that was the greatest thing in the world. This little girl on the right, she broke my heart. Her and her little sister from the orphanage, and she told me, please take me with you. I'll be good. I don't know what she told Carrie, but it was similar stuff. But children in Ghana who are left as orphans, you got to understand their culture. If you cannot feed your child, you leave them. You just walk off and go. Kojo has 4 such children in his home. He can't afford to feed them, but he's doing it out of that garden. And there are 2 little girls, 2 precious little girls that the parents brought to him and said, take them. We don't want them anymore. We can't feed them. And so that's just the way it goes with the orphan children. The sisters who came together there had worked for a year to bring in stuff that the kids could use in the orphanage and present it to them. Used clothing, toilet tissue. There were 2 100-pound bags of rice and 2 100-pound bags of sugar. And they've worked all year to make this gift to these children. I had a hard time with this group of little guys. You can't sit really well. But after it was over, they had brought their tables and stuff from the orphanage, and they had to load all that up. They may look of some size, but those were little guys, 10, 11 years old. And they were trying their best to carry one of those 100-pound bags of rice to that truck so they could get it to the orphanage. And they finally got it airborne. And the girl standing beside me she looked to be about 12. I said, it's too much for them. They can't carry it. And she said, but we will have food for a year. So their mindset was that they had to do this to get, this was going to take care of them. We have so much. Go ahead. This is Elizabeth. Oh my goodness, you talk about a song leader. That thing looked like a spider when she got on the floor. She's long-legged and long-armed, and she directs singing when she's singing with the women. And they don't have books, so she will sing the first line of the song by herself. Then she'll go back and she'll say, now. And everybody sings the song. They know it by heart. But that was some girl there. I want you to look at their beds. The women came there. They stayed Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night. That was their beds, those mats back there. They're about this thick. If they brought a child, the child slept on there with them too. On the floor, no air conditioning, no heat, no place to cook a meal, just boil their pot of rice. They really wanted to go to retreat. Shall I say any more? We grabbed because the beds are too hard at Camp Galilee. That was one of them carrying her mat away. Ghanaians can put more in a car than anybody ever saw in this world. Now they had 8 women going in there besides that. That's an old worn out Toyota, and they got them all in there, probably a 5-passenger vehicle, but they passed us after a while. And there was as much stuff sticking out the back tied on as there was in the car. I told Carrie, if that comes loose, we're done for. This woman is a preacher's wife. That's her little boy. They're leaving the retreat, and there's how she carries her luggage. Whatever she brought with her for 4 days, it's in there. This was a dream come true for Jane Maynard. 22 years ago, I asked Brother Bill Dillon to find us someone that we could support in Ghana. That was my husband's dream. And he said, okay. He came back from a mission trip, and he said, I found this boy named Davy Zurchie. And he said, Miss Jane, he's a new convert, and he's a good boy, and he wants to go to preacher's school. And says he doesn't have a family because his family forsook him when he obeyed the gospel. Well, we adopted Davies. And for the first time ever, I saw my son. And they came to the lobby, if you want to call it that, of the little motel where we were staying, and Kojo bought him a drink. And that is Davies. That is his wife, Rosina. That is my grandson, Barnabas Maynard. He's 16. He's in the university. That's my granddaughter, Blessings Maynard. She's 12. And there is my college girl, Jane Maynard. She's 20. And they have become such a part of my life. And for me to be able to see them and touch them for the first time, it was beyond words. This is the church where they worship in Pacro. This church, with Brother Delbert Rogers' help, was built by me and my husband. We bought the property first, 20-some years ago. And then they built the building. We helped them. And it was never enclosed. It was just poles with the sides open. But that is as it is today. That was and that's the inside. Not much for a church building, but I am proud of that church building. And I'm proud of the man I married that insisted we do something. And so that was a day of very mixed emotions for me. Back in the back, you'll see a bunch of gentlemen sitting back there. They were going to get in on our speeches. And Kojo went back there and he said, no, this will never do. Mammy's coming through here and she's throwing you all out. So they got up and went outside and they listened through the wall. Now it has walls. Part of it's now a school building. Kojo has a school, Davies has a school. And that school, these are just different shots of it that's been built on through the years. Nothing spectacular, but last year they ministered to 500 children through that school. This is me and my boys. And Carrie and my granddaughter, Jane. This was my first speaking there, and then Carrie followed me. Same thing. Our interpreter was Lydia. This is all of us. There's Lydia. She was the best interpreter we had. But the next time, and there's no sidewalks. We had to climb a hill to get to the church building. You don't go around the gravel. You go over the top of it. And you just go wherever. It's rough and steep, but that's the way you get there. This is another part of the school building on another piece of property. It was a half a mile away, and we still have some property there to build on yet in the future, but this is the junior high. And I didn't get down close enough to go in the rooms because you had to walk across a ditch on a 2x4. And Kojo let me go so far. I don't know, we're going to have to straighten him out before I go back. He leads me by the hand like I'm a little child everywhere I go. And he said, you're not crossing that. This was in Mampong, and it's a pretty nice little church building. This is the women's shopping day when they go to the market and get what they need, and they forfeited that. That would be their food for the week, the 2 Janes. Anyhow, to be there, and this is a nice building. And Carrie and I were able to feed them their lunch. They didn't have any way of eating anything by giving up their day at the marketplace where they would pick up what they were going to eat. And all down the road, it was interesting that sitting in the ditch here and there, setting up on a slope here and there, just anywhere, these women were eating. There was over 100 of them. They were glad to have a meal. This is my son Davies. They didn't have a woman one that could interpret that day. They got one up there and she just played plumb out. He had to interpret. We didn't have a choice. And Carrie didn't have a choice but to use Eric. He was the youth minister there to interpret her lesson. We did what we had to do.
Okay, here we go into the spiritual stuff.
Now, this is a monstrosity of an old fortress. It has been said it was at one time part of Harry Krishner's castle, and I don't doubt it. You're just seeing a small slice. It's now a religious something of some order, something for the Lord. We never did get all of it. We weren't allowed to take pictures, but we got off and got one. And they have armed guards. You're not going in there. Everywhere you see advertisements for churches. Tons of them. Just go through them. Everywhere you look. They've got more signs. And this one, I don't know who'd want to go to her. But on their cars, the reason for that, and this one especially, the blood of Jesus, Christian marriage counseling, churches. Here's 3 young men being indoctrinated into one of those cults. I asked Kojo about that, and he said everybody in Ghana believes there is a God. Everybody. But the God, and we'll talk about that a little bit more later, it's not the true and living God. They neither know Him nor how to get to Him. But they all believe there is a God. So you can see the field is white unto harvest. These women are out there in the street. I think Carrie's already. I don't care if there's 10,000 cars on the road, there's 20,000 people in between them everywhere you go. This is typical Ghana with those old worn-out Toyota taxis. You have to have one qualification to drive in Ghana, a horn. That's all you hear. Beep, 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 beep. And you just have to hunker down. Don't look out there. Don't look over there. Just stay over here. One day, one of those vans, like that Cadillac I rode in, parked beside us because traffic just stops. It's made for 10 people, I believe they said, and I counted 18 in that van. The back seat had big folks, and then it had another row of smaller folks on top of them, and the kids on top. I counted 18. I don't know how many was in there, but that's life. This is in the little congregation called Tishi. This was an interesting thing, too. We had 20 miles to drive to get there. We left at 5 o'clock to get there in time to start at 7. It took us almost 3 hours to get there. We got there a little after 7:30. And these women had just sat and waited patiently. This is a very poor congregation. And we could hear their singing. We had to walk. Now don't think there's any outdoor lights in Ghana. It is dark pitch midnight when it's dark. And there are no lights. They've got 2 or 3 in this building. They're well off. But we had to walk way up between a bunch of old, and there's no paths, so it's just erosion, and it's tree limbs, and it's rock piles. And Kojo said, Mammy, hang on to me, and put your foot everywhere I put mine. Well, like I can see where he's putting it in the dark. He got me there, and when we got there, here's what we found. The house was full and waiting for us. Beautiful women of God. Carrie, we knew that we would be there all night if we both spoke. So I told her, you speak, and I will answer questions. And we'll leave me out of it tonight.
That was the quickest lesson I ever did. It was 20 minutes.
Well, it needed to be 20 minutes.
For
lots of reasons. Let me just inform some of you fine ladies that have to make pit stops. You won't make one in Ghana. We left home at 5 and we probably got home close to midnight. The only way you're going to get one is to tell the taxi driver stop, and you get out and right there in front of God and 10,000 Ghanaians use the bathroom and get back in the car.
We weren't doing it.
We were both crying by the time we got back to the motel. The taxi driver just stops right here in the middle of all the traffic, gets out, does his thing, and gets mad. Not me. I was fielding questions there. They have the same questions we do about worrying about their children not following the Lord and all kinds of things. But this was a loving, loving church. And the minute I finished, hello? The minute the girls and all of us finished socializing a little bit, this is the preacher on the right, this is one of the elders. And one of them came and told me, said, you must sit down with these men before you leave. And I thought, oh no, what did we do? That was the first request of that kind. They sat down. There were several of the men. First, they wanted to pay us. And they had this little bitty thing of money. And I didn't want to take that money. And Kojo's supposed to be my spokesman, and I'm gouging him in the ribs over here to say something or do something. And he finally explained to them that Mammy does not take money for her work. But that's a gift for them, and it's a disrespect for me not to take it. So, here I was. And so finally I addressed the preacher, and I said, sir, if you would just let me, I will accept this gift from you, and then I would like to give it back to you so you can put it in your women's ministry as a gift from me. And he accepted that. And before we left, they wanted us to promise to be back next year, and they will run a school. There was 100 and some women in here. All told, we spoke to somewhere between 900 and 1,000 women while we were there. And I'll answer the question I've been asked so many times, how many people did you baptize? We didn't go there to baptize. Our assignment was to go and edify and encourage women of God. And that's what we went for. And I'm glad we did. But he has already got planned for us when we go back. They're going to rent a school so that they can have 1,000 women. Be the same type of thing as Village of Hope. They've done the same thing at Packrow. So when we do go back, which is the year 2021, God willing, we will have 3 of those huge retreats, and it will be work. It's like before daylight, Kojo's outside the door about 6. You can hear him pacing. He's ready for us to get up and get ready to go. He can't stand it. So it's from like 6 till in the night every day you work there. But it's all right. This is Kojo's son. He came to the last place we stayed. That was at the Baptist Hospitality House, right?
And a crop.
Baptist Hospitality House in Accra. They let us use their building. His son came. That was the first one. Then his brother came. And then his daughter Helen. And she has been helped by many of the women here. We got her through nursing school. But then when the government hired her, they wouldn't pay her for 3 years, and she still had to pay rent. And many of y'all helped with that. That's why Kojo calls her his mountain home girl. And these are his other children, his son here, the son in the red, and then his daughter-in-laws, and all of these grandbabies. Kojo is in hog heaven with those grandbabies. And you think you got a burden in the morning when you get up to go to work. Many of us complain. This woman, back it up, would have gotten up before daylight and went out wherever she had to forage for this wood. Any of you ever carried in wood for a stove, you know it's not a light load. But she would carry that and try to sell it somewhere to make a few pennies. The material is the same thing. They have little shops set up to sew. This is just typical. That's okra in that basket. Peanuts again. That's a church building of some sort. But I want to move on. These are church buildings, and I want to pay particular attention right here. They have huge, elaborate church buildings scattered throughout Ghana. Some of them are still in construction. That one is, and you can see a squatter's already moved in before they got finished. These things are elaborate. They're not like the church buildings that we have there. Going to the next.
That's it.
Whoop, you're right.
That's the last.
We missed one.
That one?
Nope, there's another one.
That one?
There. I asked Kojo about this. The people see these pastors, they call them, as gods. And so whatever they tell them to do, they do it. It's an enslavement. It's a tool of Satan. And the rich are getting richer, and the poor are getting poorer. And they do work on the poor people. He told me about one lady that had borrowed money so that she could trade. She could buy stuff and then sell it and trade and make money to feed herself and her children. She sent that loan to the pastor, quote unquote, to bless it for her so it would accomplish what she wanted it to do, and he took 1/10 of it. So she's not going to eat. These people are in the streets day and night, many of them 24 hours, and here are these elaborate buildings, but they're enslaved to the men who own them and build them. And they're all over. There's laundry day. You'll never see a sheet or a piece of bedding. They don't use it. They don't live in their houses. They work outside all day. They cook their food out there. Their children, if they're little bitties and they're trying to take a nap, you'll see them laying flat on the concrete, sound asleep. But you'll never see any bedding or anything. They go in that house to sleep and they live. They're industrious people, like ants, moving all the time wherever you see them. That's just a little setup shack, and I think the slums were behind that wall, but we don't have a picture of it. You didn't want to see it anyhow. Typical traffic in Accra as we're getting ready to leave. We had to be clean to leave. We have no way to wash, but a hillbilly girl knows you can go sit in the shower with a bucket. If you can find some kind of soap, which we took with us, so I was doing laundry. Nancy Crawford washed my head for me you take credit, Nancy. That's the best head washing I ever had. It's chemical, but it worked. I only got my hair washed twice while I was there. I never had a water bath while I was there, but if you ever go, take these with you. There's a bath in every bag, and so you can be clean. Carrie said I didn't bathe for 2 weeks, so I was stinking. I saw Carrie bathing out of these a few times, and if I had to get into that cold water they got, I just used the bag. We're fixing to leave the airport.
Whoops.
We're north of, we are on our own again, and hello. North of, where's the van? There. North of Little Rock, we're on our way home. We are pooped, but our heart was right here. These women, they've got some little songbooks there. Out of all the women we saw and taught, maybe we saw 10 that had a Bible of their own. We all know in this room that faith cannot grow without the Word. It cannot happen. Satan don't care if I'm believing in God. He don't even care for them being a Christian, as long as they always be a baby Christian, helpless and hopeless. And when they can't study for themselves, they can't grow. Carrie and I have a mission. There's a jug sitting back there. There's one in a lot of ladies' classes in Missouri and Arkansas and Mississippi. There's one in each one of our ladies' classes. It's not a mandatory anything. We're just telling you, if you ever get the whim to want to buy a sister in Ghana a Bible,
For $5.
they're $6.
$6.
$6 each in their language. Kojo will get them and deliver them for that price to them. We want our sisters to have a Bible, and I think you do too. And if you get really wound up and wound out and want to write a check for more than one, make that check to the Oakland Church of Christ. They've taken on the responsibility of collecting those funds for us to get to Kojo when he comes. I thank you again for everybody in this room for all you've done.